Wake that ass up.
Early in the morning.
The Breakfast Club.
Morning, everybody. It's DJ Envy, Angela Yee, Charlamagne the Guy. We are the Breakfast Club. We got some special guests in the building. Run the Jewels. Welcome, guys.
Thank you for having us.
What up?
What's going on?
Up, brothers? Happy to be here. Happy to be on the Breakfast Club at the same time.
I know. Has LP ever been here? I don't think LP ever been here before.
No.
I think it's the first time.
Okay,
No.
good to have you even virtually, man. You know, LP, I heard you say something the other day that summed up the RTJ4 album really well. You said we didn't want something that felt like it was despair. We wanted something that felt like it was resilience. And that's exactly how the new RTJ4 sounds, resilient. How were y'all able to capture that energy with this project?
Man, I think that was just the mood that we were in. Like, you know, the last record that we did, it was made during that whole period of time that was leading up to the election, basically. Mm-hmm. And obviously there was a lot going on at that time. You know, every other day was, you know, the murder of another, you know, Black man in America. There was a lot of, you know, news about it. It was very like emotional. I think the record translated that way, you know, between me and Mike, and just the way that we felt about everything. It was kind of a blue record, I think, like Mike calls it. It had a lot of emotion, and it was sort of sad in some ways, you know, like there was some sadness there. I don't think that me and Mike felt that way when we stepped into the studio this time. I think we felt kind of like renewed and kind of like, yo, let's do something that's just got a different energy. It wasn't something that we spoke about, but it's just something that we just felt, you know? And I just feel like this record is not sad. I think this record is it's got a lot of energy, and we're definitely talking about, you know, shit that's going on, but it's not, you don't walk away from it feeling defeated, you know? I think you walk away from it feeling like, you know, kind of like you could take the world on a little bit, I hope.
You guys started working on this album before the pandemic hit. So how did things change, and what songs were done before, and then what got added after?
No, all of them. All of them was done before. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was done in 2019, really. I mean, we were touching it up at the beginning of the year in terms of mixing and everything, but we were supposed to drop the record in April. So, you know, it was going to be the same record no matter what. Like, there was nothing added. There was nothing changed. It just kind of, the energy just was already there.
Wow.
For people that don't know, let's start from the beginning. How did you guys get together and create this group, Run the Jewels? How did that happen?
Mike's good at telling that story.
Yeah, there was an executive over at the Cartoon Network. His name is Jason DeMarco. He's a dear friend of mine and LP's. Mm-hmm. And even though he's in television, he has an amazing musical taste and ear. Like, Jason will send you a Turkish rapper over like crunk beats at 3 a.m., but he'll be saying some of the most, you know, just ill shit ever. So I'm a big fan of Jay. When I was running with Grand Hustle, thanks to my man Tip, my fellow homeboy and leader, he had gave me opportunity. He's like, yo, you need a place to release records, man. You got SMC. Let's get you down with Grand Hustle and help spread the campaign. And Rolling Stone put one of my records, Ric Flair, like top 50 that year. That gave me hope. It's like, I ain't gonna quit rapping, man. I done finally made Rolling Stone on my own indie. Jason comes along and says, I want you to make your America's Most Wanted. And the only stipulation is just be Killer Mike. You don't have to worry about being Mike Bigger or having to finesse. All you gotta do is just be brutal, hard as possible. And I'm gonna get TV to give you money to do it. I was like, all right, yeah, it's cool, let's do it. Mm-hmm. I was supposed to go in with 3 producers, LP being one of them. He put me and LP in the room together at first. Within the first 3 hours, I just knew I was born to rap over this guy's beat. It was Ice Cube and the Bomb Squad, you know, renewed in some way and progressed, because we're both students. I'm a student of Cube. He's a student of the Bomb Squad. And since L and I came up at the exact same time, there was no learning each other because of our fandom of the same stuff and growing up the same era. We kind of knew. So I knew we were supposed to be making music the first day. I convinced Jason and L. I convinced L. Jason was with L during the whole album. L was like, man.
I was like, hell no. I was like, no.
Like, nah. So I literally call him every day, like Steve Urkel did Laura. And just like, yo, these 3 records we did is ill. You got to do the next 9. You know what I mean? So I just whittled them down. And Jason was like, don't worry about it. I'm going to go find some more money and we'll make it work. And we made it work. And when we produced a classic album called Rebellious African People's Music. And people always interpret that as I'm saying, you know, it's just for black people. But no, I'm the African and the music was for the people. Just like the Black Power Fist is all power to the people. And I thought me and L just made wonderful music together. He had a mixtape that was due when we came off tour together. And L at the time was like, man, it takes me a long time to write. And I was like, no, it don't, because I'm finna come up there and we doing this shit together. So I came up, we did 5-6 records. Jason and our homeboy Taco, who's one of the co-producers with L, was like, you guys are crazy if you don't make this an album. That turns into Run the Jewels 1. We go on tour together. We have LP fans, Killer Mike fans, and then all these new kids are showing up. And we're paying 300 to 500 people rooms. At this point, I'm like, who the fuck are these 100 kids with X's on there? I was so old, I didn't even know X's meant you can't drink in the club. and we would come out as Run the Jewels, and these kids would go, because first I come out as Killer Mike, then LP come out as LP. We open for Run the Jewels, then we come back out and Run the Jewels, and kids act like we went and put on the goddamn Batman uniform. Like shit.
Same clothing.
Same shit. We might change.
Same two guys. Yeah,
and
same two guys.
You would have thought you were in a victim yoga class. Like motherfuckers was losing their goddamn minds. It's like, oh, this is the shit. And after tour, I remember one of the managers, Joe, saying to me, Joe said, so when are we going to get to work on a solo album? I was like, never. The fuck you talking about? I'm in a group now. And the legend of Run the Jewels begins. And so thanks to Jason DeMarco, I always like to make sure he's included because I believe Jason saw this before L or I, and that's why he put us in the room together.
L, why you didn't want to do it? What was your initial reservation?
It really had nothing to do with Mike. Like I really liked Mike immediately, and the music that we were making was incredible. And it was simply that before I met Mike, I had gotten a deal to do a solo record, and I had kind of had like before that I had a record label, Step Jokes, that I ran for like 10 years, right? And I was really wrapped up in producing other people's stuff, and I was like putting a lot of energy into other people's stuff, but I wasn't making enough of my own music. The reason I started a label was because I was making music. And I think at the time I was just resistant because I had kind of decided like, you know, I had gone through, like I had lost all my money. I had kind of got crushed to the dirt. I had been humbled a bit, you know, and I finally was kind of had a spark back, and I had a new project to do, and I was like focused on trying to do that for myself. So I really wasn't expecting to meet like my best friend at like 35. You know, I was like, nah, that's it. I'm doing me. No more putting energy into anyone else's shit. And it was just one of those things where, you know, you think you can control, you think you know what's best for you, and the universe is just like, sorry, man, your plan is because I couldn't deny. At the end of the day, he didn't have to work too hard to convince me to do it, because I couldn't deny that there was some magic in the studio. I couldn't deny that as a producer, Mike got me. You know what I mean? Like he really was the ice cube to my bomb squad, if we're using that metaphor. And I couldn't deny that I liked him. And we, you know, it's one of those people that we were born a month apart from each other, you know, and we should have known each other. Like, but we didn't. We had to go through our whole lives before we met each other. And so I was just, honestly, I was scared. I was scared to get involved deeply into another project with someone else, because I had just done a lot of that and I was tired of it. I had, you know, a lot of those relationships were complicated, and just, I wasn't happy. I wasn't making music.
Artists are crazy, bro. Artists are crazy. That's what it is. Artists are crazy.
And I'm an artist and I'm crazy. And so it's like, you know, I will never I'll never throw stones. Like, I can say that from the perspective of the crazy artist, and I can say that from the perspective of the guy that works with a lot of artists. And, you know, long story short, man, it wasn't about Mike. It was about where I was at in my head and what I thought was right for me. And Mike won me over. You know, the cuddly bastard won me over. I couldn't front on him. And he was just such a, you know, I mean, look, I'm a fan. Like, Killer Mike is my favorite rapper. Like, I didn't know it at the time, but as I started working with him, I was like, I think this dude is actually probably the best rapper in the world.
He's in my top 5.
You know? And so when you get the chance to work with someone where you're creating something, like as an artist, as a producer, when you get the chance to work with someone that's that nasty and that's cool, that you like, you know, you just, it's stupid to say no. I was just like, you know what? I don't have any plans. All the plans that I did make, they all fell apart. So who the fuck am I to make a plan? You know what I mean? Like, cool. You know what?
You know what they say, LP? They say your good plan is not always God's plan for you.
No doubt. And don't they also say something to the extent of like, you want to make God laugh, make a plan?
Make a plan.
Yeah.
And what about the name Run the Jewels? How did the name Run the Jewels come about?
L tells us.
Well, I mean, that's something that I wanted to call a project. Like ever since, you know, obviously we all know what Run the Jewels is. And when we were kids, Run the Jewels was something you didn't want to hear. But I always loved that LL Cool J song, Cheesy Rap Blues. And I loved at the end when he was like, throw your hands in the air, wave them like you just don't care. Keep them there, Run the Jewels. And the whole song was about he had lost everything and then he was relating it to that term. And I wanted to call the mixtape, like I was just going to make a mixtape of something, you know what I mean, of my shit. I was going to call that Run the Jewels, or I was going to call my next album Run the Jewels, just because it really spoke to me. I was like, it felt like a powerful statement. No longer was it a statement like, we're going to take your shit, but it was more like, I was in a place in my life where Run the Jewels just sounded like something that I could get behind, like in terms of, like, let me just take my fucking future. Let me take everything, you know? And I ran it past Mike, and he was like, let me think about it. he played coy for like, you know, one night. And
yep, that shit was dope from day one.
And the next night he was like, yeah, it's Run the Jewels. It's Run the Jewels. So
can I ask you guys a more personal question just relating to this album? The last song, A Few Words for the Firing Squad, right? LP, you got married a couple years ago, so it hasn't been super long. And obviously, Killer Mike, we know you're an amazing wife. And so I wanted to ask you guys, you know, just being home, I didn't think about this, but how the heaviness of the world affects your life at home, and how your wives feel about everything that's been going on right now, and how have your relationships been affected just with coronavirus, the pandemic, police brutality, the protests, everything that's been happening. How has home life been, and how has it changed?
Damn, we went from a cute little story about Run the Jewels to the deepest possible thing that you could hit me with.
Sorry.
In like 0.2 seconds. That's an amazing question. Thank you for that. I mean, Mike can go first. I can go first. It doesn't matter. I think that I would like to just thank my wife Emily for being as patient and cool as she is, because I'm a moody bastard and I get affected by all this shit. I'm an artist and this shit just fucks with me. Like, you know, so I go through. I think everybody is right now going up and down in terms of just depression, or just trying to hold their head straight, or just trying to figure out how they're supposed to just deal with this immense amount of stress that we're all feeling right now. And she's been amazing, and she's been understanding in that regard. And I know that she's affected as well. And I'm doing everything I can to try and make her happy right now. We're out at the beach right now. It's her birthday, and I brought her out here to just get away from all the shit. But I know for me, that song is very important, and I know it is for Mike as well. But you know, that song was a chance for me and Mike to kind of take our superhero capes off, because you know we're characters in these records. Where we can do anything. We bust through walls and we get in the shootouts with crooked cops, and we survive, and we talk shit. And then every once in a while, there's a record that we do where it's really just Jamie and Mike. We take our capes off and we say, you know, who we are. And this record felt like a chance for me to say something to my wife, like this is who you married. Who your husband is. This is the reason why I do what I do. I have a past, and I have principles, and it, you know, and I want you to understand me, because you're putting all this love and energy into supporting me. So that for me was that record for me is very special, for sure.
Mike,
what's up? Y'all know me and Shay, man. Y'all know. Some mornings I'm on live waking her up, pissing her the fuck off, and she wants to murder me. And there are other days where, you know, we back to back fighting the world with each other, and others where we just two regular parents, a dad and a mom, two taking care of kids that kind of are brought to the situation. So it's allowed us to grow, you know, more in the path of my grandparents. We've had to kind of, both of us were raised by our grandparents. So she's really reverted back to a lot of the very simple, very basic Southern things, and I've reverted back to my grandfather, fucking growing a garden and fishing with Greg Street and shit. You know what I mean? I realized that I have been on the road so long that I have missed a significant portion of my kid's life. Even though I'm in my kid's life, we had fun. It still was that, you know, daddy still has to leave in a week for 2 months. Whereas now I've had a chance to be with them and to actually just be with my wife. You know, my wife travels with me. And what I realized at a certain point that it's unfair to her. In the last tour, she chose to stay home more. And I didn't like that as much. So God said, hey, I got one for you, buddy. Now you guys are at home together. Now you got to learn how to communicate better and effectively. Now you guys can take the time to grow businesses and grow a stronger bond and really be the matriarch and patriarch of a family. So I have essentially turned into my grandparents with my wife. And I say that in a very good way. I love my wife like Envy loves Gia. You know what I mean? This, you have to, and I can remember being at that table at with you, see, and when we were all at that Tyler Perry thing together. And I look at you, your Mrs. to my left. I look at Joy Reid and her Mr. to my right. And I don't care what differences has been had at that table. I don't care what agreed or was not agreed on. I realized how normal that moment was, that we were just people with the people who support and love us. And I've had a chance to extend that good feeling. You know, that was a good night. We were just a bunch of black people talking shit. You know what I mean? And I've had to have so many more of those nights at home. Hey, Em, what up, sis? Happy birthday. I've had to have so many of those that I realized as much as my dream is that I got and how happy I was with my dreaming and Run the Jewels, that I had missed this bigger happiness of being able to celebrate it with my family. Like, I don't just send Michael her Jordans, you know, every year now. Now I pull up to her house and like, look, Dad got the motherfucking forces, you know what I mean? And that's a radically different feeling. So I've grown tighter. My bond is strong with my wife, and we've been able to do bigger and better business together, which I love. And we've been able to be more philanthropic around Atlanta. And I've been happy just to be home with her. I love her. She just came back from Savannah, so I'm just getting over 2 days of being mad she was gone.
She still won't get up and make it to the Breakfast Club in the morning, though, when you guys are
No, you should wake Shay up, because I'm actually in my house. Before, Angela, let me know when we got 5 minutes left. She's getting the fuck up today.
You can't wake her up right now, right out of her sleep, and put her on camera now.
She can mask up. Fuck that shit.
Hey, you know what though? I've been a Mike know, like Mike is one of my top 5 favorite rappers ever. But I feel bad because I didn't realize LP produced the whole rap album.
Yeah, he produced the entire rap album.
You talking about Reagan and Ghetto Gospel and Don't Die and Big Beast. I had no idea, and I know he was on the album, but I didn't know he produced the whole thing.
Yeah.
Wow.
He's LP, and I'm going to say this because I never I see it. He is the greatest rapper producer alive. Now, people can put an arguably there if they want to, but my thing is, other motherfuckers don't write their raps. Unless you talking about the greats like Stax, which he was one half of a group, Q-Tip. Unless you talking about those, everybody else is disqualified because you don't write your fucking shit. so it's good to be in a group with the greatest rapper producer alive, because it really makes shit easier when you going in that booth sky high without words on paper.
El, you got to tell me how you felt when you heard Killer Mike rap Reagan.
I mean, we were in the room together. You know, it was like that album was a really fun record to make because we did that shit in my apartment in a room. We didn't even do that shit in the studio. We did, like, Mike came to Brooklyn, and I had one little room in my apartment that I had my shit set up in, and we just kicked it. We just hung out. Shay came through. We just smoked weed
Nick
and hung out and worked on jams. And
Mini Beast was alive. You and M were like a year in. Everything was fresh and new.
Everything was fresh and new. You know, I didn't know the reasons why I wanted to kill Mike yet. You know, it was amazing. I mean, the whole record was kind of magical, and we really talked about the whole thing the whole way through. You know, I mean, Mike gave me a gift with that record because he came to me and he was like, I really want someone to. He was like, I've worked with amazing people, but I've never really sat with someone and had someone produce me. You know what I mean? And I understood what he meant. Like, I don't think Mike ever had somebody who was going to clock in the hours and sit there and talk with him about the jams and work on it like really tooth and nail, like from the beginning. And that's the way I get down. That's the way I do music. And so it was incredible, man. That whole record was incredible. And I knew that when we were doing it, you know, something like Reagan, I knew at that time, like, this is special. I have to give this something in terms of a sound bed and something, you know, I have to make this really count. And so it was a wonderful thing as a collaborator to be able to be a part of all of that. And I'm very grateful that that happened. You know, like you said, like I wasn't necessarily open to it at first. And once I let go of that and started to see what was happening, because I had an instinct about it. And once we got to records like that, I was like, this isn't just dope. This is actually important. You know, like I understood that Mike's voice was important at that time, you know? So I'm very grateful.
And pardon me, guys, my daughter graduates today, so she had to go to practice, so she was saying goodbye.
Congratulations.
She finally gets to graduate. You know, they held it off for a long time, which is weird, because she starts college in 2 more weeks. So she graduates today, and then right back.
She's going to Hampton, right?
No, she's not going to Hampton. I wanted her to go to Hampton. It was between Hampton and NYU, so she's going to NYU in New York. She's still going to stay at home, but she's going to go back and forth.
Respect.
Let me ask you a question. Do you like Zoom graduate now? How do you graduate?
No, we're actually going. They're going to the football field or the soccer field, and only allowed 5 people. And it's outside, outdoors. It's on a big field. You have to be 6 feet away. You're only allowed 5.
Not in total.
We have 5 family members attend. And I'm pretty excited about that. So my mom, my dad, me, my wife, and my oldest son are gonna go, and we're excited because at first we didn't have a graduation, but they allowed it, so we're excited.
Congratulations! That's amazing.
Thank you.
You know what I want to get your guys' thoughts on too? I was thinking about this because all these television shows and movies that we grew up watching, right, that meant a lot to us, because this is like a television show also, you know, this album. And right now what they're doing is a lot of stuff today wouldn't fly, you know, like, of course, the Dukes of Hazzard, you couldn't have that show on with the Confederate flag on the car today. What happens with that content? You see what Gone with the Wind, they took that off of streaming services. So what do you think about all these television shows and movies from back in the day?
It's making a shit ton more money for specialty cable, because I still watch the Dukes of Hazzard.
Really?
I just go to the fucking Country Channel, and I do the same thing I did when I was 8. I ignore the fuck out of the top of the car. I listen to life advice from Cooter and Uncle Jesse. I lust Daisy, and Bo and Luke are pretty fucking cool, because you have to remember, as we're only 56 years into freedom as a people with black folk. I've been seeing the Confederate flag my whole life, and it's been benign as a snake with no teeth and no venom. I didn't give a shit, you know what I mean? So I've never let it get in the conscience to be offended. So when I look at it, I'm just looking for the fucking child. This is all about the car for me. When I look at In the Heat of the Night, I don't think Mr. Tibbs still has to overcome racism. I'm just looking at a good TV show. What I've missed and what I'm scared of with television now is I remember learning about race in class in a very powerful way, watching All in the Family, watching the Jeffersons in particular, when George saves the life of that Klansman. Because he learned CPR earlier in the episode, and the guy looks over and says, "You should have let me die," when he realized the black man saved him. As a kid, that allowed me to be tough enough to understand that there's some people that are vehemently dug into racism. You're not going to change them. But seeing shit like Different Strokes, seeing things that challenge perception around me, just help me grow. So I just chase the shows I like on other channels. And I actually think it's probably making cable companies more money, because, you know, I still like shows like A Different World and The Cosby Show. I can separate the show from the horrible things that have been done, but that show at a time where crack was destroying our community. There were no black fathers because of shit like the crime bill and things of that nature. That show provided a sense of stability. I remember 8 Ball saying his life wasn't The Cosby Show, but that show taught a lot of boys how to be husbands, brothers, dads, because their dads have been taken away with prison and crack and things of that nature. So I still watch a lot of the old shows. Like Archie Bunker was a vehement bigot, but you saw his humanity grow as that show went on. So for me, I miss the 70s and the more challenging shows like Good Times, Sanford and Son. And I think that maybe shows like The Chi now are doing that by putting different lifestyles in our face and saying these people exist. They contend. I'm thinking that shows like The Wire have done it. But I don't know where we're going to go the next 10, 15, 20 years, because if we start to be too offended by everything, we stop being willing to be challenged to accept new stuff and be empathetic, is my opinion. That's real.
Am I the only one who notices that every time that there's some, like, there's a sort of an awakening publicly, or every time it flares up where people start to try and be conscious about their role in race and the role in society, that like TV stations decide to pull Gone with the Wind and shit? Like, I feel like it happens.
Yeah, not every time. And then TNT brings it right back.
Right. But here's my question. My question is, at what point do motherfuckers bring that shit back? You know what I mean? Like, it seems like it's back every time. Like, oh, well, time to take Gone with the Wind down. That'll just solve everything, you know? Like what people are really protesting is Gone with the Wind and shit. Like, you know, some shitty movie, like, and like rednecks get all upset about it and shit. Like, you're taking Gone with the Wind. Like, shut the fuck up. You and your family are not watching Gone with the Wind every fucking week. You know what I mean? Like I really just think that they keep putting it back on just so that they can have an easy out, you know? If anything gets tense, we'll just pull Gone with the Wind off of Netflix.
What about a show like Cops?
Cops was bullshit from the start. I never watched it. It was predatory.
Horrible.
It was fucking evil, and all of America cheered it on. Wrong. Yeah, Cops was. I never watched that fuck ass show.
Tell me why.
Because it at a time, like, again, black and white people use drugs at the same amount. If you sold or trapped or fucked with cocaine in the 80s and 90s, or you was in the Bluff in Atlanta, heroin, you knew that half your customers would be niggas and half your customers would be crackers.
Right.
That was just what it is. It was white people and black people all indulging in the biggest coke fest ever in the 80s. But what you saw on Cops week after motherfucking week were white men hunting brown and black people down like animals. Occasionally, they throw you a poor white hillbilly, redneck, something to say, well, we showed them too, but it was always evil. And I'm going to tell you what's fucked up now. I'm glad they canceled it. Within the last 3 years, they had pivoted out of the black narrative and pivoted to rural, southern, white, rednecky people. So I'm thinking to myself, if I didn't want to see us do chase through city streets and this happened, why the fuck am I going to watch the suffering of a white guy in a trailer suffer the same shit as me, and now I'm supposed to cheer this shit on? Nah, the state is the enemy, man. Like Cops was just, it was always fucked up. And maybe I just had too many criminals in my family to be, and I was sympathetic, but I'm just like, it was just, or too many people that laws made criminals, but that show was always on some sucker shit. Always.
Now, what do you think about, let's stay with the police thing. What do you guys think about defunding the police and everything that's going on with police? And even with the rise of the shootings going on across the country, it almost, and this is my opinion, it seems like police officers are not responding per se as they should be.
I think we should stop saying triggered words that they give us. Both of our fathers having been involved in law enforcement, we know that America is never going to defund the total local municipalities and police departments. And if they do, then you will have a federal police agency, and that will become your Gestapo. So I'm just telling people, when you're saying defund the police, I think what people are saying, or I know what the real objective is to take some of the funding that police get to become more military-like and put that into other things. When a lot of this shit pops off, man, you have overfunded military like tanks. You have overfunded military like uniforms and guns and ammunition, and you have underfunded the police athletic league, things that will greater connect the community. You have underfunded loan programs that will allow policemen from a community to live in the communities they police or close. You have underfunded the police payment. Atlanta police, they got a raise this year. They deserved a raise years ago. A Morehouse brother who would have made a wonderful APD policeman has to go police in Brookhaven, and he says, Michael, I just got to be honest, they pay me more out there. So I want to see better recruits, better payment. I want to see police be in the communities. I want to see us fund things like police athletic league and nectars. And there are other things we can fund around education, trades programs that we don't have to pour so much into our police, essentially making them a Marine Corps on the streets, which is not a bad thing to have the Marine Corps. Shouts out to Marines. but we're making them a military force of occupiers versus of servers and protectors of the community. So I don't say the drop word defund the police as much as I say, let's allocate a bulk of this money in other places besides dumping it into militarizing and making the police potentially more violent.
You know, billions of dollars, you know, sunk into policing in America. Billions in New York. What is it? Something like
$6 billion.
$6 billion. I think that what people are saying is, imagine what we could do with that fucking money. Because when the shit, because when the shit fucking comes down to it, and we're on TV and we're watching people get out there, and the people are out there, and it's all races of people out there in New York City. A lot of it run by kids who are trying to change the world. Like, those kids are leaders out there, and you see the response, and the response is militaristic, and then you start to connect the dots, and you're like, I'm paying for this. And I think that defund the police is about the idea of what would happen if we changed the social approach to the way that we spread money around, period. If we actually put the money into curing some of the systemic ills like poverty and the school systems, and you know, and it's that simple, man. And then what we do, like Mike's right, then what we do is we argue about the term. You know, it's the same way that they've been arguing about the term Black Lives Matter on Fox News since the term Black Lives Matter came out, because they're like, wait a second, Black Lives Matter? What about white? You know, it's like, it's semantics, you know what I'm saying? But the message behind it is the thing that nobody wants you to understand. The message behind it is the thing that nobody wants to talk about, because that's too complicated. It's way easier to say, wait a second, you want to defund the police, but we need police. Yeah, that's not what we're fucking saying. We're not saying that you don't need police. We're saying the police don't need a fucking tank. That's what we're saying.
Straight up.
It's just like what's going on in Chicago. Like, they don't need to send no federal agents into Chicago. They need to send federal aid. They don't need force. They need funding.
Yeah,
yo, that needs to go back.
See, that's that's bullshit. That's window dressing. That's so he can look like he's fucking doing something to the people that have no idea what those communities are about and would never go there and learn all they know about those cities through Fox News. As far as anyone watching Fox News is concerned, those cities are burning to the ground and everyone is running around with guns and shooting each other, because that's exactly how it's portrayed. And so Trump can get up there and he can say, look, I'm sending them in. What do you mean you're sending in the fucking army because people got shot over the weekend? What the fuck are they going to do? You know what I mean? They're going to run around and just start arresting people in the community and just throwing them in and as we see, they're going to start throwing them in the back of unmarked vans. You know, like, that's, you know, so it's all.
My whole thing is, I think they need to open up the budget so we can see where the money's going. Like, you know, you talk about $6 billion. We don't even know where the money goes. Like,
it went to fucking rocket launcher. It went to fucking, you know, to a rocket launcher.
You know, I want you to unpack a line for me, man. It's on the new album. I think it's on Yankee and the Brave. He said, I got one round left, 100 cops outside. I can shoot at them and put one between my eyes.
It shows the latter. It don't matter. It ain't suicide. And if the news say it was, it's a goddamn lie. Yeah.
It seems like that single answer describes the black experience in America. Like, those are the two options. You either kill them or kill yourself. Like, unpack that a little bit for me.
Well, I don't, for those like you my partner on and offline, so you know my admiration for Fred Hampton, Assata Shakur, you know, Black Panthers, Black Liberation Movement, Kwame Ture, formerly known as Stokely Carmichael. You also know I have my admiration for non-black people like, you know, Eugene Debs, Leonard Peltier, you know, and anarchists like Lucy Parsons. So for me, you know, I operate and exist in the society because I'm a husband, I'm a dad, and I conform because I've made those choices to be. But at my very core, you know, I'm a revolutionary. And the greatest revolutionary thing I can do in this moment is be a husband and a father and raise independent, strong black children. But there's a time that's going to come in this country that, you know, if we keep at the pace we're going, that citizens are going to have to decide, is my freedom and liberty greater than the comfort of government control? And living black, you feel this earlier, you feel the brunt heavier, you see what's coming over the hill, and people don't have to believe you, but the attitude is that, because the spirit is that I got one fucking bullet. And at some point, You know, I'm not going around looking to hurt nobody or be hurt, but at some point, the world is going to mount itself against me in a way where, like that hero versus that fucking coward, Trayvon versus that coward, George Zimmerman, you got to fight to the very fucking death. You got to kill that pussy if you motherfucking can. And if you can't, you got to die trying. And that's why I've always viewed that kid in particular, and even the kid in Brunswick, Rashad. That kid is Rashad, right? Or is Ahmad?
Ahmad
That
Aubrey.
kid died. Oh, yeah, Ahmad did not. Rashad was the kid up here. Ahmad did not die a coward. He did not die a fucking human being running, being haunted. He died engaging the motherfucker trying to kill him. And that is the black experience for me. The black experience is one, like, that line wasn't a hopeless line. Like, L comes in and saves the day after that line and gets my ass out of there. But that line was really the mind state. Like, I want black Americans to understand that is it. Sometimes the odds are so fucking far against us that that's what it is. But like Fred Hampton, they're going to kill me. This going to be in my motherfucking sleep. Or I'm just going to kill myself. But I'm not going to give these devils and these predators and these evil motherfuckers the satisfaction of knowing they killed or broken, you know? And if we stand in that solidarity, if everybody does that little bit, a lot doesn't have to get done. You know, we have to understand that the greatest part about this moment of being black or being a part of the proletariat or any part of any people struggle right now is the motherfucking back on the ropes. They are afraid in this moment. The most dynamic thing that happened in Minneapolis didn't have shit to do with burning down a Target. They burnt down 3 police stations. Right. The proletariat took it directly to the steps of the state and said, we will burn this motherfucker down like y'all did that harbor in the Boston Tea Party, and we will reset this system and start again. So for me, it is about the black experience of, yes, you are always under duress, but you do not give up. Because you have a generation of people coming after you that we're going to be responsible and accountable to. And that's if the same way King, the same way Malcolm, the same way Medgar put it down for us, I am intending to put it down for the next generation. And first and foremost, you do that through lyrics. I got a text from Ice Cube a few days ago, like, I need your ideas for this. Had nothing to do with music, but had Ice Cube's music not conditioned me to be who I am, I wouldn't be who I am. So for me, that line means the world, because that is the attitude that black mothers, fathers, sons, daughters have to motherfucking have. If I got one fucking round, man, I'm going to use this motherfucker and use it effectively against the devil. That's it.
And I got to say, we got to, sorry to interrupt, but just to tag on to that, because that song it's our action movie. You know what I mean? It's the beginning. Yeah. And we get a chance in metaphor to stand with each other. You know, like we get a chance,
you was getaway driver, L.
Exactly. Like, you know, and I think that's something that, you know, me and Mike's friendship just naturally, and even when we're creating just a story about running from crooked cops to set you up, we get to create a feeling or an atmosphere of like, hey, these are two dudes that it's not political, but these two dudes have each other's back, and the whole thing is obviously a metaphor. You know what I mean? Like, and you know, I love that jam because in its action, just fantasy thing where you know where we get to create these characters that are badasses and that we're running and we're escaping, and you know, we also get to show just some brotherhood between two people who you wouldn't even necessarily assume, you know what I mean, are got each other's backs like that. So absolutely. I really love that jam. Yeah.
You know, Mike, you mentioned Trayvon and Ahmaud Arbery, and a lot of these abolitionists, they want to abolish the police and adopt like a community watch program. But when you think of those two brothers, you think about how wrong that could go. What do you think about that?
There's a movie, I forget the name of it, that talks about the experiment where college students were placed in an authoritative position over other students. Essentially, they made them prisoners. And I know from my personal experience of being a patrol for one day in elementary school that, anytime you give people authority over others, the ability to abuse grows exponentially. And unless that system is constantly and vehemently checked, you're going to have abuse. So my thing is, what is going to be the vetting system for the community? Will each community decide what their laws are? How will they decide that? So I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm saying, what does it look like for each community? Because the way it looks in Atlanta may be something radically different from the way it looks in Detroit. So we're going to have to be open to that. And we're going to have to think that. That's why it's plot, plan, strategize, organize, and mobilize. It's a good idea to be plotted out. Now we have to plan it out, strategize it, see what it looks like, so you can properly organize it to mobilize it. It's possible white communities do it. They hire, they're on the north side of Atlanta. It's a few communities got their own little agent that roll through their community to make sure that they shit ain't get broken into. But what does that look like for working class people and poor people? Do we do 4-hour patrols or 8-hour patrols? Are we allowed to engage people violently or not? So these are the questions. So I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm saying let's come up with a prototypical model. Let's see how it works. The Nation of Islam had a dope one in the 90s, wasn't it, Charlamagne? I think when they went into D.C., I think the Nation of Islam was used in D.C., and it worked effectively. Those brothers don't carry weapons. They communicate and deal with the community often. They gained the respect from the street peddlers to the top tier killers, and somehow they brought peace and didn't have to bring a gun. If I was a strategist, I'd like to know what did you guys do that we're not doing? Because we have 2 people in the car with guns, and we seem to have to engage people that are running away, right. And including women and children. So those are the things. I think the question is, what does it look like? But while we're dealing with what we got, what we have is our police, municipalities, and forces. What we can do is adjust things. The big thing we can adjust is the 13th Amendment. The 13th Amendment allows for slavery in case of imprisonment. It literally says that slavery is illegal except for. Now we have contracts where private prisons are guaranteed an 80% occupancy. So if I move to a town outside of Atlanta, and that town is a struggling municipality, that town has the ability to invite a private prison there. The private prison comes there and says, we must have 80% occupancy or you're breaking your contract. All of a sudden, this town that used to be a town I used to drive through, West Georgia going to East Alabama, turns into a speed trap, a dope trap. They got 5 police dogs. They searching every car. And people who get caught with 3 grams of marijuana get 1 year. Because that 1 year you're in there helps keep that 80%, and it turns into an evil system where the prosecutor prosecutes for pay, the judges do it. So we have to start to say to ourselves, what does policing look like on the big? Let's get that changed. On the local level, why don't we have community review boards that are empowered to fire police? The only way you're ever going to defeat police unions is by using public pressure on politicians and demanding something. You're going to have to attack pensions because it's your money they pay out. If you kill my brother and the city has to pay a $36 million lawsuit, the cop don't have to pay shit. Doesn't come out of his motherfucking pension. Doesn't come out of his goddamn retirement fund. It comes out of your dollars. That should make you motherfucking furious. And it should make you furious enough, and you will rarely hear me. You will rarely hear me criticize any union. But police unions seem to have a stranglehold on mayors. When police will turn their back to a mayor, I've never seen no shit like that in my life. I saw that in New York. In Atlanta, the police are not always happy with our mayors. But I've never in my motherfucking life seen a police force. I wish the police would do that to Keisha or have done that to Kasim or Andy or Maynard. But what they do is they get behind closed doors and they voice their grievances and they get that shit worked out, which is another reason I point back to cities like Atlanta. While although not perfect, we are pushing the line and they seem to be responsive. They have a community review board here. Even with the bullshit reports that police were not policing immediately after that brother was murdered at that Wendy's, that was not true. Cops were on the street. They weren't allowed in some places. And I'm not defending cops. I'm just saying there are a lot of good black men and women that sat behind those cars like, I'm sorry, I know that I'm supposed to not give a fuck, but I can't watch a child die. I have to be out here. So I just want us to just know that as the community, there's never been a more opportune time for you to radically change policing on a local level. Burning those 3 police stations in Minneapolis set a precedent. Now take that precedent to the polls. If your mayor doesn't agree, get that motherfucker out of office. If your judges and prosecutors are compliant in police brutality, vote those pussy motherfuckers out of office and put in a regime that will do the right thing on the people's behalf. And if we don't do that, at some point we have to allow ourselves to say we take some blame and letting these evil motherfuckers live when we could destroy them politically in the right now.
I want both of y'all to answer this next question because I'm thinking about the Reagan record, and you start off the record. I think it's the Ballad of the Bullshit. Ballad of the Bullet, freedom of some bullshit. Yep. Will we ever do it bigger? Just keep settling for little shit. I feel like we keep settling for little shit, especially on the federal level.
Yes, man. Yes, we do.
How do we change that?
I think it's no better time. I don't think the answers come from 2 rappers that are stoned in the morning on radio. I think the answers come from people. I think the answers come from people like the brother Desmond I was talking to last night, who was getting felons voting rights restored in Florida. He has the ability in Florida to change that entire state based on getting over 1 million people their right to vote back. Once you pay your debt to society, you should not be excluded from the voting process. You can radically change things through voting and money. We can do things like participate in our census so they know where we at. There's a way to change this system in the right now. But I don't think it comes from two stone rappers in the morning. It comes from the people that are organizing Racial Justice Now, New Georgia Project, Developing Options, Overcoming Obstacles. It comes from those organizations, or Developing Options and the Next Level Boys Academy. It comes from them because those are the people that are doing it every single day. And we should make sure those small groups, like Judge Asha Jackson and from DeKalb County, is an elementary and high school friend of mine. Judge Jackson set up a restorative program through her court using her own money. Using her own money, she allowed people who would have faced time, minimal time, but still bullshit time that would have radically changed the rest of their life. She set up a program that was restorative, that allowed those people to get back on pace. Her program is going to be picked up and mimicked by the state of Georgia due to a woman named Miss Ali, who comes out of the juvenile court system in Georgia under Judge Brad, worked with Judge Brad Boyd, who was a friend of mine, who instead of giving my homeboy, who's a gangster disciple, time in jail, allowed to become an organizer and radically change his life to be a husband and father. With these kind of people leading the way, I think that shit changes. If not, we just keep settling for, they named the street Martin Luther King. We've painted Black Lives Matter in the street. As symbolism, all that matters, but unless we get legislative change and systemic change, we're settling for little shit. Let's go for the biggest possible wins we can get, because there has never been a more appropriate time. And I give it up to my homeboy to say some cool shit.
I agree with Mike.
Guys, isn't it ironic that we have people fighting to get their right to vote, right? Their rights have been taken away, and then there's people who will say, hold your vote, don't vote. It's just crazy that we have both of those things happening simultaneously.
I think that everyone is a little bit confused as to how to proceed, because nothing has ever seemed to really work. And I think that we find ourselves arguing intellectually and just trying to figure out, like, well, what the fuck where is my power? How is it, we keep being told that our power is in one place, and then that doesn't seem to be changing anything. And I think that people are just constantly confused about the whole shit. I know I am personally. I know that I have gone through many different changes in the way that I approach, the way that I engage with the system. There were years when I refused to vote because I had personally decided that it was a sham. I thought that it was insulting. And I'm not saying I feel this way anymore, because I've evolved and my perspective has changed a little bit on that. But I understand that perspective. When people, for me, it felt like coming from New York, when you come from New York, you know exactly who's getting voted for. Whatever candidates are getting voted for, you know who's getting voted for. So it's very easy to feel like, actually, it doesn't really even matter if I fucking vote here, because we know exactly who's win. New York. Exactly. From New York, we know exactly who's going to win. For me, I came to what I sort of regard now as a false conclusion or an incorrect conclusion, that meant that, amongst other things, that led to the idea that voting wasn't really that important. And I think that I had to confront certain things. I felt like I was conscientiously objecting at a certain point, because I was like, all these motherfuckers are crooked. They're all lying. Every time they get in, they're just saying what people want to hear at their base. And then they're getting elected, and then they're not doing what they said they were going to do for their base. And then they come around again and they say the same shit again. If you're a fucking Republican, you come out and you say, they're trying to take God from you. They're trying to, and the gays they want to get married, and we're going to protect your family and all, and and then on the right and on the left.
That's a spot on impression of a Georgia senator right there.
Thank you.
It's amazing.
And, if you're an intellectual and you're someone who sees the whole shit from a distance, you might be tempted to be like, fuck all of you. This is all the same bullshit you say every time. So I really thought that I was on point when I was like, yo, my vote, actually not voting is actually more of a statement in my mind than voting, because it's a conscientious objection. I'm objecting to the charade of the whole thing. I have evolved. I started to realize that a lot of that perspective was rooted in entitlement. A lot of that perspective was rooted in the fact that I didn't personally feel a lot of the effects of the policy changes and shit that happened on a local level in the communities that were really affected by it. People like Mike actually helped me evolve that opinion. And so now I do participate, but I think that everybody is very confused about how, like, all right, you put yourself in a situation where you know this motherfucker Trump got to get out of office. You just know he's got to not be in office anymore. It's a state of emergency. He cannot run the country. Doesn't really matter what your perspective is. Anyone with half a brain can see he can't even if you don't fuck the politics, he can't even handle the country. He can't even handle a sickness. He can't even get it right. He can't provide the things that people need to survive. So even on just that level, I truly believe this guy's got to get out of office. But then you get to a point where you're like, well, what does that mean? Does that mean that I'm endorsing someone that I don't necessarily agree with intellectually or politically? Does that mean that I'm just settling? Does that mean that I'm choosing lesser of two evils? And so it's a very complicated thing. And I totally understand why everybody's just fucking losing their minds. You know, I do.
You know, something Joe Biden said yesterday, it makes me think of the hook. It makes me think of the hook on Just. Look at all these slave masters posing on your dollar. And the reason I thought about that is because Joe Biden said Donald Trump is the first racist president. As if it wasn't 12 presidents who were goddamn slave owners.
You really just wish that he would just say something that you could be like, thank you, yeah, okay, great. Give me any, you know what I mean? Like, you just wish, you know, because you know, to some degree, and I'm just going to be the one who says it, to some degree, you know, if it's between Trump and Biden, you got to get Trump out. No one's like excited about Joe Biden. Like, God, I'm just so invigorated by his brilliance, you know, like, yes, you're right. He is the first racist president, Joe. Yeah, that makes complete sense. Thank you for stating that. Like, you just kind of wish the guy would say something that you could at least agree with. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
I look at it like I feel like we could work with Joe Biden, like with the people that he puts around him, that we can actually get things done. And it might not be him initiating it and making it happen, but we'll have to look at the people that he's putting in positions of power where you feel like, okay, at least I feel like we can work with this.
Here's my thought on it. And I won't talk too much about it, but my thought is this. Better to get the guy who has to pretend to be good than to get the guy who doesn't even bother. Better to get the guy who has to pretend to care and gets into office by pretending to care than by the guy who says, fuck you, I don't care, and gets into office. The guy who says, fuck you, I don't care, and gets into office doesn't have to hold himself to anything to get reelected except fuck you, I don't care. And the guy that says, I'm pretending to care, I really do care, you kind of don't believe him because of his history, but you're like, well,
let's get it done.
You know? You know, so it's like, at least you could be like, hey, you pretended to care. You know, I mean, I don't know shit. Like Mike said, stoned rappers. I'm really not a fucking political guy.
Y'all know a lot of shit, man. Even on that hook, after y'all say, look at all these slave masters posing on your dollar, you say, get it. You ask the question. Yeah. What does that mean for the people that actually don't get it? Because clearly, Joe Biden don't get it.
That was Pharrell, man. You know, Pharrell came in with that hook, and we asked him to contribute. We had all the verses already down, and we didn't have a hook. Pharrell had showed interest in being on the record.
Wow.
He came to the studio and heard the music and was like, anything you guys need, let me know. And we made that call, like, because we had this empty space. And I think that we had all written verses that tackled sort of money in different ways from different, you know, we all sort of got at that point and we're discussing money. You know, for me, I was saying, like, you know, it's funny how some say money don't matter, that's rich now, isn't it? Try to sell a pack of smokes to get food and get killed. You know what I mean? And it's not an anomaly. And so I'm talking about the fact that people will be like, oh, it's not about money, but obviously it is fucking about money because motherfuckers are being murdered over the need and desire to provide for themselves and that money. Pharrell heard what we were doing and he just came in and he just stuck the landing, man. I think he tied the whole thing together. I was blown away by what he wrote and I didn't know what to expect. But he's such a genius that I knew it would be dope. But I think that he's pointing out the fallacy of the way that we're all operating. I think it's very simply, if my interpretation of it is, this whole shit is based on the system of slavery. And every single time that you think that you're progressing and we're using capitalism to progress, look at that look at that note in your hand. Look at that thing that you are using to progress, which is not to say, oh, we shouldn't have money. It's just to say, let's be honest about where this whole system came from. It's right in front of your fucking face. And I took that as what he was saying. It really felt clear and succinct. Like, look, every bit of progress we make is actually rooted in the same evil fucking system. And that's my interpretation of it.
I want to get into some joints. I know you got another question, but I want to say I like to say Nina Turner should be president of the United States, and I would like for everyone to get behind her for 2024. Did you
see those delegates in California had her on the list for VP?
She should be. The fact that she's not a consideration is an insult and a sham to the black vote. And in the black progressive vote, especially, I think to answer Angela's question, Malcolm X said, by any means necessary. And that's the black people out there. If you have a municipality where you are dominant in that municipality, it makes sense, or you leverage a swing vote, it makes sense to organize your vote, to plot, plan, strategize, organize, and mobilize your vote for whichever party member is going to do the most for your community concerns and the wider community concerns. That's your duty. If you have the ability to use your vote as a threat to say we will not vote because you're a swing vote, you do something and you hold that line. Both have worked. They worked with Stokely when he was organizing in Alabama by holding the vote. They worked for Andy in Atlanta when the vote came out. They also worked for Carter. If you watch that Clarence Avant story, it was Andy that talked Clarence into putting the concert together that brought out Georgia's 35% black. You can swing any election you want to in most major municipalities. Well, you have President Jimmy Carter as a result of that vote from your community being active. So by any means necessary means exactly that. You don't have to feel guilty one way or the other if you are organized. If you're not organized, you can just be doing, what Elle was saying earlier, hey, I was just conscientious objector. But if you organize that vote, it is as an effective weapon as an AR-15. It is just as effective as a Glock or a 1911. You have the ability to use that power. But by any means necessary means by absolutely that. By any means necessary. And if you give 90-some-odd% of your vote to anybody, if you give 90% of your time to anybody, like women and men do when they say they're in love, like wives and husbands do, then you guys are do something. That's all I'm saying. Don't be the 3 o'clock in the morning call, I come bust on your back and then I leave. Or I come use you for what I want you for and then I'm out. Don't do that.
I agree with that as long as you are organized and know what you're asking for and doing something.
Absolutely. Well, that's what I said, Angela.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Absolutely. I'm going to send you a t-shirt. But we're not going to guilt each other. We're not going to guilt each other. Either way, just make sure you're organized. These records don't come out and they just not big for nothing. After you come up with a hit record, then you say, how do I get it to people? It's so many hit records in the South y'all ain't never heard in New York. It's records that can play from North Carolina to Texas. A motherfucker can have a career of 50 years because they plotted out how was they going to roll it out. I'm going to roll it out in the strip club first. So it's going to always have a feel. Part of the reason you have a mayor in Atlanta right now is about 720 votes. Those votes got activated out of barbershops, beauty shops, the Blue Flame. You can see places like that have a direct effect. So I just want people to know the vote is important. And if it is important, use it and leverage it. Organize, plot, plan, strategize, organize, and mobilize. I apologize for stepping on you there, Angela, but I don't ever want people to think that we at odds. We want the same thing, and I totally agree with you. Let's motherfucking organize, man. Charlamagne has been telling us what's happening in Portland. Charlamagne told us what happened a year ago. He said, Mike, I'm scared this motherfucker might not leave. Now I was like, get the hell out of here. He said, no, all he got to do is activate martial law. So if they're experimenting and trying in Portland, what do you think it's going to look like in Detroit or Chicago or Gary, Indiana? Black people right now, you better organize your vote.
Hey, and Trump told us last week, no, that was Sunday. It was like, yo, if he loses, are you going to leave the White House? He said, I don't know. I'm not a good loser. I'm like, this motherfucker is telling us what he plans to do.
And then the next thing he told us was that he could remember 5 words in a row, which was really, which was really nice to hear. I think.
Well, Mike, what do you think of Asheville, North Carolina approving a reparations plan for its black residents?
Anything we're going to have is going to start at a micro or small level. even the move to have 40 acres and a mule came from Field Order 15, where Sherman did a very fucked up thing in abandoning people across the river. They died. And to make up for that, he was like, Field Order 15 was supposed to give people that were following him as he marched through the South parcels of land. That definitely never happened and deserves to happen. But that happening on that local level, if that prototype works or when it works, it provides greater opportunity for other municipalities to do the same. And for HR 40, John Conyers has been since 1989, God bless his dead when he died last year, had been pushing since 89 to get the study of reparations studied. Because in this country, they're never going to give you anything until they know what they have to give you. According to the Angela Project, the Angela Project said Black people are owed in excess of $15 trillion. Bob Johnson, who went to the White House and requested this, says that it comes out to about $350,000 per person. I averaged it at maybe about $450,000, $500,000 even. But not only would it be a cash statement, you'd have to figure out how much land people should get, how much education, tax incentives breaks, something to truly make up for 250-year head start to try to put us here. And everyone knows that if our community is stronger economically, the greater community is stronger. And that's just not me saying that. When I was talking to Bloomberg Magazine, the Feds in Atlanta, the financial institution, says the exact same thing. So everyone in this country should be pro-reparations, because the pro-reparations movement would mean that cities like Chicago, that punk-ass trigger word that people use, all of a sudden you have kids that are educated. You can reverse the evil redlining that happened for over 80 years in that country, that depressed Black areas and put white areas and suburbs up. You can reverse that, and then you can get this country where everybody's running full steam, and then you get a country that can truly be dominant without warfare. And if you don't have an interest in that, you really need to question to yourself why. Because if anyone has been given, or a society has been given a 250-year head start, if you're not willing to be equitable to make that happen, you have to start to say, why is this a person that even truly considers themselves in the mix?
Wow, I know y'all gotta go. I know LP on vacation. I want to ask y'all one more question. Run the Jewels is a critically acclaimed rap group. I mean, the publications always love Run the Jewels. But I saw one negative critique of the album by a man named Eric Schreiber, and he said, rather than offering any social insight or clarity, the group's lyrics demonstrate a good deal of confusion. Members Killer Mike and LP match every healthy statement with several backward ones. How would y'all respond to that?
How the fuck do we know what he's talking about? You got to name specific lines, sir.
Well, hold on.
Yeah,
First of all, no. Here, listen, we're not above criticism. I mean, we don't have to, everybody doesn't have to love everything that we do, but
be clear in your critique, Eric. That's all I'm saying.
No, but hold on, Mike. Me and Mike are two stone fucking friends. We are making rap music. We are confused. Our music is fucking mayhem and confusion, and we represent the confused. And we are not here to offer a political solution in a rap record. We're here to represent the feelings of two dudes that I think connect pretty well to the feelings of people on the street and in the world, which is that we don't fucking know what's going on, but we can identify the confusion. And I think identifying the confusion is important as an artist and as someone who's speaking from the soul. The best art doesn't come from saying, hey, here's my essay on how everything works. The best art comes from saying, here are my issues. Here's why I'm confused. Here's why I'm angry. Here's why I'm hurt. Here's why I'm happy. Here's a jam where I'm just talking shit. Listen, me and Mike never said that we were coming out here to be heroes. We said that we were coming out here to be ourselves, period. And I get and I accept anybody saying that they don't.
No, motherfucker, you can't just criticize me. And I'm like, let me put on my TI cap. You can't just criticize me without motherfucking telling me your criticism. I argued with a young woman the other day. She said, I didn't like your speech with the mayor. And I said, oh, really? I said, well, what didn't you like? I don't know. I haven't listened to it. Well, this is simple. Hold on. She literally said, I don't know, because you don't listen to it. So my thing is, if you're going to criticize my music, fine. But you got to honestly give an example. If you say, well, it's this way and it's that way and I don't agree, you're still leaving it abstract. So I'm not above criticism. just what exactly you criticized me for, because like Elle said, you just said I'm a human. Well, the same human being that loves my child, when I stub my toe because they left a door open, will say, that little motherfucker. Because that's what human beings do. Human beings give a shit in the PTA meeting, and then they curse out another parent for blocking their fucking their space. That's called humanity. Like Elle said, but my shit is, if you're gonna criticize us, please just say some real shit like, I just don't like them. And that's okay too.
I'd also like to point out, exactly. And I'd like to point out that looking for solutions, absolute political solutions from a rap record from dudes who made their name talking about shooting poodles is probably not the greatest fucking plan in the world. You know what I mean? Like, and if you're disappointed that we aren't solving the world's crises, I do apologize. And next time we will try harder to solve everything.
That's what it seems like when you read his critique, because he keeps saying things like, you know, like he talks about Mike saying things like, you know, people with an attitude at Beverly Hills are referring to Trump as a casino owner. And he's like, yo, these jabs hit the target, but they don't transcend the obvious. He was like, you know, what kind of statements are they making? So it looks like he's looking for y'all to have solutions as opposed to just reporting what's going on out here.
The solutions are with
I think there's more depth and more thought and more examination of stuff on our record than you'll find on 90% of the music out there right now. And if people don't think that if a guy, you know, like you said, you know, it's touched, the record has clicked with a lot of people for whatever that purpose is. If a guy isn't feeling this shit, then it's all good. But listen, man,
that's okay. You can just say, I don't fuck with them. And that's fine. But if you're really looking for solutions in a record, I challenge you to say, well, where does the money go to when you just give a donation? You download the album for free, and then there's a fund that's donated to a lawyers group that gets people in jail out of jail that are protesting.
MDC.
Over $180,000.
So forgive me for being passionate, but my real work, L's real work, benefits the world in a real way because you're watching a movie on audio. So I just challenge you to re-listen, get really stoned, have sex with whatever guy or girl you love, and just get fucked up on shrooms and weed and listen to it as an action-adventure television show. So there are going to be moments of morality. There are going to be moments of utter perversiveness and fucked up and weird shit. But if you allow yourself to suspend the disbelief of Jamie and Mike, and you'll meet them after the show, but just get into the characters of Killer Mike and LP, I just want to say, listen again, and we'll do lunch. And then if you don't like it still, you can just say, I don't fuck with it. And
I'm not doing lunch. Listen to the music. And also, listen to the goddamn music, man. Nod your head. Jesus Christ. It's a fucking banging album.
I will say his critique is a little off, though, because he even talks about Killer Mike's speech in Atlanta when
exactly. He doesn't fuck with Mike. He doesn't fuck with Mike.
I don't like Mike. We knew that's what it was. Exactly. Envy, defend me, man. Defend me, Envy. Damn it.
I don't listen to those people. If I did, man, it would be driving.
Envy, I got to shout this out right quick. You've been riding a bike, right? So correct. I got to give a shout out to my man, Courtney Bear Seals. He's just a man. He's getting me into it. The Moss B, the dope peddlers in Atlanta. There is a beige, brown, and black bike coalition growing in this country, and you are a leader. I love you.
I am leading the way.
And I gotta shout out State Bicycle Company because we raised a good amount of money for protest and Black Lives Mattering. We did that through a Kill Your Masters BMX bike that we did as a one-off. There were only two. I have one, but we're going to produce that bike and we're going to do some more good in the world. So Bear got me on the bike. It's Bear Mossby. But seeing you next to a Ferrari and a bike said maybe I should take this seriously. So
I'm enjoying it. I'm getting my cardio up. I'm losing weight. And you know what? It's a time just you and the boys go out and you're doing something positive. You're just riding it.
You look good, man.
Why can't the women go out too?
You said what?
Why can't the women go out too?
They can. Absolutely positive. There's women out there riding and they will outride me in a minute. But
all right, I see Shayna's still not up.
No, Shay is not. Make Shay get up. Hold on, I'll be right back.
Man, don't do that to her, Mike.
No, leave her alone. Leave her alone.
Don't do that to her.
My
don't say it like that.
What you did, Yee?
Listen.
Hey, you got to get up. Angela says, why aren't you up?
No, don't do shade like that.
Oh my goodness.
Hold on. You want me to bring the phone in here? You gonna fuck me up? Hold on. We gotta take
Don't
Miss
do
Missy
that
to the
to shade,
bedroom.
Mike.
Yeah, we're gonna do. She got me. This goddamn. She got an $11,000 bed. What the fuck you talking about?
Look like the master.
Hold on. Hold on. Look at our prayer room. That's for Hamu Piku art. That's some expensive shit. God bless him. Hold on. Look, there's a picture of me and Elle because I don't believe in white Jesus. Hold on.
I'm not gonna lie.
Going in here. Hey,
real quick, Mike. I just want to say, just for what it's worth, because you mentioned it, something that we're about to announce. But when we gave away this record, when we put this record out, hey Shay.
Hey Shay.
Hey Shay.
When we put this record out, we actually gave a free record out as well. Like, not only did we sell it, but we gave it away for free as well. And anybody who wanted a record could have the record. And one of the things that we asked people to do was donate to an organization called the National Lawyers Guild, which is an organization that helps protesters with legal work to get out of, that are scooped up by the cops, and that provides watchdogs for protesters. And the public, through that and through getting our album, has donated over $180,000 to that fund. So I just want to thank everybody for doing that. And it's one of the things that makes me and Mike really proud that we have the type of, ear with people, because that's like tangible good that for us we could do together. So I just wanted to shout out all the jewel runners for making that happen. That's important, and that's actually going to put some real work out there. So thank you.
No, the Lawyers Guild is dope because it's part of the Mass Defense Committee, and that's like the lawyers, legal workers. They even give money to law students, provide legal support for political activists, protesters. It's dope.
Well, thank you guys so much. We really appreciate this. This was amazing.
Yeah, let's get into it. What do you want to hear?
What can we listen to? Some shrooms.
Let's too much political talk, man. Let's play that Out of Sight.
Out of Sight.
Let's do it.
2 Chainz. Word.
All right, well, here we have it. It's the Breakfast Club. It's Run the Jewels.